People always say that you have to have money to make money, and that there's an extraordinary level of sacrifice on the road to success. So how is it that investors like us, who didn't start out with much money and who don't rely on banks and credit, how is it that we can increase our income and build our wealth in a way that doesn't require us replacing one full-time job with another while still enjoying the things in life that matter most to us? That has always been the big question, and this podcast reveals the answers. I am Carrie Like, and this is the Investor Warrior. Hey, Warriors. Welcome back to today's episode. And I have on the show, Chris Craddock. Chris, thank you so much for coming on to share your business model, which I have so many questions about. And I love bringing guests on to talk about things that I don't currently do, because then I get to ask you all the questions that the listeners probably have to ask to you. So thank you again. Grateful for you being on the show today.
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Look forward to hanging with you.
So Chris, just start out first with your Investor Warrior origin story. How did you become a warrior in your business today?
Yeah, so it all started right when I got married in 2000. I went on staff with an organization called Young Life. I loved Young Life. It was awesome, changed my life. But I made $20,000 a year, which was great. But I live in the DC area, and $20,000 a year, once you start having kids, everything else does not work in the DC area. And so in 2003, when my wife got pregnant and she was going to stay home with the kids, I went to the library, because it was before Google could find anything, and checked out every book they had on real estate investing, and read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then all these investor books they had. And literally just I knew nothing, but I just went and started knocking on doors of distressed properties. One of my catchphrases in life is imperfect action trumps perfect inaction any day of the week. So I just went out imperfect action, knocked on doors. And in 4 months, I made 12 times what I made in a year. And I was like, this is great. Well, continue doing ministry stuff, stopped, flipping, because I now had some money to do. Well, always led large teams. Actually went back to school and got a doctorate in leadership. And I guess it was 2011, we had more and more kids. I've actually got 6 of them, which
wow.
Probably should have gotten a TV or something, I don't know. But anyway, different hobbies. But, bottom line is, with 6 kids, you start running out of money really fast. And so I went back and started flipping houses again. And basically all the people that I went to before were now underwater. It was like that investor lead, that lead source, they were all underwater. And so I learned how to do short sales really quickly. Well, with short sales, the bank was going to pay a commission. So I was just like, well, I'll go get licensed. And then once I got licensed, get paid my own commissions for flipping them. Right around that time, the banks changed their margins for short sales. So it was a lot harder to flip short sales. And then I read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And because I'd always led large teams, I had a doctorate in leadership. I ended up starting to build a retail team. And so very quickly, we grew one of the fastest growing and one of the bigger retail teams in the country. And with that, I realized, because of my investor roots, most people go the other way around, investor, agents become investors, right? Yeah. Well, with my investor roots that became an agent, I was like, how can we mesh these? And I realized that all these investors are they're buying so many leads that are just, if they're not willing to sell it at 65 cents on the dollar or be creative in the way they sell, like finance, sub to stuff like that, then they just die on a vine in your CRM. And so I found a guy who became one of my closest friends now, but he had one of the biggest wholesaling businesses in the country right here in the DC area. And so I called up and was like, hey, why don't you send me some of your dead leads? And he was like, Chris, I tried all that stuff before. I've opened a brokerage. I've done all these things. And at the time we weren't really good friends. He's like, I've tried all that. In fact, I've given one of the top agents in the country 1,000 leads over the last 6 months. And they've only closed 6 transactions. He's like, it's not worth my time. And for me, persistence breaks resistance, right? So I just kept calling and calling and calling. And so eventually they gave me 150 leads. 70 of them were already closed. 30 of them were out of area. So I had about 40 leads. And I thought to myself, well, if this other person did, 6 deals out of 1,000, I need to do 6 out of 40. So I closed the 6, and everything I could do to make it happen, learning systems why do these people call investors versus agents, all the other stuff. And I closed all those deals. And literally I called them. I said, hey, I got 6 under contract. And they're like, why don't you come in? And I came in and they're like, man, we gave you just wouldn't leave us alone. You were like bugging us. So we gave you leads that were like 5 years old just so that you'd hit a dead end and leave us alone. And he's like, but you actually closed a bunch of them. And then from there, kind of built out this model of the investor agent and, how investors can take those leads that they've already paid for and actually monetize them and make a fortune. And I'll just give an example that the one guy that the one group that I was working with, right now, we send them about $62,000 every single month in referral fees. That's $750,000 that was just dying in their CRM that is now found money. Like they're not paying any extra for it. It was like literally just sitting there dying, and now they're making money on it. And we do it with like the big guys, have helped people, the small folks, that just have, a small little marketing spend. But that's kind of the model that we've fallen into, and now we're really scaling on a large way.
So just a few things that I wanted to add to that. You are the first guest to have a doctorate in leadership. Now, I've had some leaders on here for sure, but this is my first guest here who's had a doctorate, like an actual degree in leadership, which I love. Where did you get that from?
So it was from Regent University.
Yeah. Okay. Also 6 kids. That's crazy. So we have 3. And I always say having kids is not a practical decision. It's an emotional decision. Like you don't go into having kids being like, oh, this is going to really up my financial gain, right? Yeah. It's an emotional decision. But I will say that having kids has pushed me harder as a person, as a business owner, as a mom, as a wife. Like they are my why.
Yeah. Are you a comedy fan? You ever watch any Jim Gaffigan?
No. Yes. Doesn't he have like 6 kids?
He's got a bunch of kids. He's got 5 kids. But yeah, when somebody asked him what it's like having a bunch of kids, he's just like, well, picture yourself in a pool and you're drowning, and then somebody hands you a baby.
Yes, I have heard him before, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. One day he said, okay, this is every parent's mini vacation. A mini vacation when you have this many kids is when you close the doors to your minivan and you walk around to your side to get in your side. And it's that 2 seconds of just quiet because you've closed the doors, the kids are inside, and now you walk around. He's like, that's a mini vacation.
100%.
So funny. Okay, so let's talk. And another thing I wanted to add to what you said is you took leads that were 5 years old and you closed on them. And I want to dive deep into this because I think that a lot of investors, like you said, they purchase the list, they contact the homeowners, they try once to get them on the phone, and then they toss it off as a dead lead, never to return again. And I don't know, to me, that's just like waste in a business. And I can't stand waste. Like I'm like the opposite of a wasteful person. Like it drives me crazy when I have to throw rotten vegetables out of my refrigerator because we didn't eat it. I'm like, oh, that's just waste, right? So waste in my life, like I just can't do it. And there's a lot of waste when it comes to our businesses, when it comes to our leads that we deem quote unquote dead leads because we couldn't get them on the phone the first time, or we sent them one letter and we never got a response back. So the fact that you took this list that was 5 years old and you were able to close deals means that like a deal is not dead until it's dead. Like what is your definition of a deal being dead?
They've sold. That's it. They've sold.
Right.
But most people think they're dead, right? I think a better, although the name of the class that I teach, the course that I teach is REI Revive, how to revive your dead leads. I think the better. Yeah, I think you're right. It's more sleepy leads is what they are. They're just they've fallen asleep and you need to wake them up.
Yeah. And so so what's interesting too, I just wanted to add is that I've been an investor now for 9 years, and now I'm finally going and getting my license right now. Like I'm going through the whole 63-hour course, because for 9 years, there's been this debate of pros and cons to getting your real estate agent license when you're an investor. Do you need it? What are the pros? What are the cons? So first, I'd like to go into that. Then I'd like to go into your system of recapturing these, what we're going to call sleepy leads, not dead leads yet.
Sure. Yeah, I think every investor should get their license. Bottom line is you should have disclosures, whether you're an agent or whether you're not an agent, right? It's just a smart business thing to do. So, but if you are an agent, you have to have your disclosures. That's it. So you have your disclosures, whether you're an agent or not. And here's the deal. If you grow even a mildly successful real estate investor business, you will be the go-to person in your world where people have any real estate questions. They're going to ask you questions. So even if you don't want to go show houses every day, then you just get a friend to do it, and you get paid a referral fee by handing off your friend to somebody that you trust to go show houses and get them under contract. So you might as well get paid to be the go-to person for real estate in the world you live in. I mean, and then if you want to grow something bigger, then you do that. And then the last thing I'll say is this: success leaves clues, right? We just know that that's true. And so somebody's going to tell me a couple people that have massive businesses where they don't have an in-house agent or they aren't licensed, and that's fine. There probably will be some outliers somewhere, but I work with a lot of the biggest real estate investors in the country. And what I've seen is almost all of them either have a brokerage, and the reality is most of their brokerages don't really do much business, but they just have it so that they can get referral fees, so that they can list their own property, stuff like that. So yeah, that it's just what the bigger players are doing. So obviously success leaves clues. You need to ask yourself, if that's what they're doing, why are they doing it?
And how easy is it for you to switch hats, right? To put the investor hat on, take that hat off, put the agent hat on, because it is two different businesses.
Yeah.
So how easy is it for you to switch that hat?
Well, here's what I've found in life. I love what Zig Ziglar says. You can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And so if you really are just going in to work to steal equity, I don't respect that. I don't like that. But what I do like is if you go in like a doctor and you're diagnosing a problem and you see, so this is one of the things, and this is where I think the agent world gets it wrong. They put their values on everybody else. And oftentimes their values are the most money for the property. But the reality is that's not what, like in the investor world, we know that's not true. Heck, when I trade, like I got like my dream truck, right? But when I traded it in, I traded in for my old car. I knew I'd make probably $2,000, $2,500 more if I sold it on Craigslist. But I'm like, I'd rather trade it in for the convenience. And so if you understand that there's usually about 5 reasons why somebody goes to an investor versus a retail agent. If you understand that and you can solve their problem, then then that's great. You just look for what their problem is, solve their problem, and you're going to make money, whether it's as an agent or whether it's an investor. Solve problems. That's it.
And how many times did you say, where you go and talk to a homeowner who called you as an investor, right? They're interested in someone purchasing their house, but it ended up converting into a listing, a lead, where you sold their house for them?
I mean, most of the time, right? You think about it. And so this is what I get into on it. So let's say somebody has, let's say they're going to close two deals a week. Okay. I just was on another podcast yesterday where we were talking about this. His business, he closes about 2 deals a week. And so I was like, okay, so you get about what, 10 appointments? And he's like, yeah, exactly. I get 10 appointments a week. And I was like, you probably get what, like 50 to 75 leads for that, right? And he's like, exactly. That's exactly where it is. So with it, if he's 2 appointments closed a week, or 2 deals closed a week, 10 appointments, what happens on those other 8, right? Those need to be converted over. And I don't think the same person that's offering, $150 to buy the house cash is the same person that should also offer to list it for, $275. Like, I think that you should hand it off, which is the system that I teach, how to pick the agent, and then what is the scripting for the handoff so that you don't lose it in the handoff. So then you literally just hand it off if they don't want it. But that's the whole deal, is if you close 2 a week, you're going to have 8 people that are wanting to sell their house and they're distressed. They're people that you pre-qualified are ready to go. And then that means there's 8 about right there, 10 appointments. That means you've probably, out of the other leads, you're going to get about 20 appointments right there. If you have 10 distressed appointments, you're going to have 20 retail appointments, people that want to sell, but just not at 65 cents on the dollar. So you're looking at about 28 at bats for every single time that you bring in leads, like 28 at bats. And so what we found for agents, and sorry if I'm like diving too deep in the numbers, what we found for the agents is an average agent should close 25% of the appointments you set at for them. So 28 at bats, they should close 25%. If they're really good, they should close 42%. And like it's anywhere in between. So that's where it is. Should never be less than 25%. So when you understand those numbers, you realize that you are leaving a fortune on the table if you are not doing anything with those dead, sleepy leads.
Yeah. And what's the main purpose for, how do I go from 25% to 40%?
It's just like everything. It's skilling up. It's getting better at your role playing. It's getting so one of the biggest problems that I think most people have is they don't practice, they don't role play, they don't know their scripting, they don't know their dialogues. And then at that point, you're practicing on the people that pay you, right? That's like the worst thing you can ever do is practice on the people that pay you. So you've got to know it. And then the other piece too is also like literally you can find out for yourself. But I spend almost 6 figures a year on coaching and mentorship and training, because for me, we grew really fast and got very profitable very fast because I was able to have other people show me how to shorten the learning curve. And in this business, the amount of money, like you can pay a couple $1,000 to have somebody teach you what to do, or you can take months and months and months and learn on your own. But that'll cost you so much more money if you're doing stuff at a high level.
Right. It can be an expensive seminar when you go at it yourself.
It's called the stupid tax. That's what it's called, the stupid tax.
We don't like to pay tax, especially the stupid tax. So going back to what you said, so if a homeowner calls you, they're interested in you as an investor buying their house from them. You can't make the deal work at the numbers you need to get it at, but the home could be listed. At that point, you're referring it over to another agent and collecting a referral fee for doing that?
That's right. That's
Got
right.
it.
100%. And so how you refer it is a big deal because if you ask every seller has a brother's uncle who's a hairdresser and a real estate agent, right? Like there's more real estate agents than there are like cars right now, right? Like it's crazy.
No, actually someone just posted an article on my Facebook feed that there are more agents in Central Florida than there are homes for sale right now.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's that whole thing is you got to be able to get the agents or get in front of people. And so you're scripting to get in front of people, helping people realize, because everybody, if they come and talk to you and you say, hey, do you want to talk to an agent, or hey, I could list it for you, they'll feel like it's a bait and switch. And they're like, I got somebody else. No, I don't want to talk to you. So the handoff has to be smooth. The process has to be smooth, and your scripting just has to be good. Or you're like, I'll just give one last example on this. Is there was a husband and wife team. The husband ran an investment group out west. He ran an investment group, and the wife was a real estate agent. And so when the first person that put me in touch with them, he was just like, listen, we got this down. Like, we're doing well. And they told me about the money they were making. And literally, I was like, I'm telling you, that sounds good, but you guys have not even scratched the surface. You don't realize how big this can be. And literally, they called me about a month and a half ago, and they said, Chris, we've been doing this for 2.5 months. And he's like, just from your program, we have an extra $90,000. And then we've already paid for this stuff. So we have an extra $90,000 coming to us in 2.5 months. He's like, this is life-changing for us. This has changed our life. And so that's that whole thing is like people think that they're doing well, but they don't realize like how big this can be if they do it well, scale it right, have their scripts, have their dialogues correct.
So yeah, that's interesting. So I've always been the face of the real estate investment company. I've always been the one that's gone out there and negotiated the deals. I'm putting my name out on the letters. And now my husband and I are switching roles where I'm starting to coach him on what I've been doing for the last 9 years. And now I'm getting my license. And so would you recommend if there's a husband and wife, agent and investor, that the investor can refer to his wife those listings?
100%. It just shouldn't be the same person. That's the whole, I mean, just put yourself like that's the whole thing. Role reverse for a second. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If I come to you and say, Carrie, you know, I'd like to buy your house for 150 grand. And you're like, man, this guy's lowballing me. And then I say, hey, but I can list it for 300. Like, you're not going to have high level. Yeah. It just doesn't work well on that flow. So that's where it just, but if you say, I can do this, and then in sales, there's something called the edification technique, right? So if I were to say, man, my name's Chris Craddock and I'm the man, I'm really good at what I do. High five. You know, you're gonna be like, okay, you're kind of a punk, right? But if somebody else were to say, hey, you got to talk to Chris, he's the man, he's really good at what he does, then you're gonna listen, right? And so that's where you can edify your spouse, but it's hard to edify yourself. It just doesn't work as well. Yeah,
that makes total sense. So let's talk one more thing about pros and cons of real estate investing versus having just being a real estate investor versus an investor and having the license is disclosure and marketing. So in your business model where you're an investor and an agent, when you put out your marketing, what is that marketing saying? Is it, I'm an investor, I want to buy your house, but I'm also an agent? Or is it, hey, I'm an agent, I can list your house, but what is that marketing? Or do you split it up?
Yeah. So usually like an investment company will send out their marketing. And as a real estate agent, if you're sending it out as the agent company, then you have to have your disclosure, who your brokerage is. Each state by state is different, right? But usually it's like brokerage name, phone number, all the other stuff. But if you're doing it from your investment company, you can go. Now, if you're a licensed agent in most states, again, I don't want to make, blanket comments because states are different. So check your own state rules. But in most states, it's when you have a substantive, oh my gosh, you can't get that word out, but you get what I'm saying. When you're having a conversation of substance about somebody's house, you just have to disclose that you're a real estate agent with whatever brokerage you're with. So at some point, that's part of the scripting that we teach is, that you just say, hey, look, I am a real estate agent. I could list it. But again, that's not what you want to do, because if they're not looking for somebody to just list their house, they're looking for somebody to solve their problems. So that's part of the scripting that we teach. But you do have to just disclose that if you are an agent on the appointment, but you usually just say it in passing, like, I am an agent, but this isn't, I'm with this brokerage, but this is not what I'm here to talk about today.
Well, and here's the benefits of having a spouse that doesn't have the license, right? So if my husband doesn't have the license, but I do, he can put out the marketing. He doesn't disclose that he's a licensed agent because he's not an agent, but then he can now refer anything over to me.
100%. Yeah. No, that's great. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So let's talk about these sleepy leads, these dead leads. Like, what is your system for recapturing dead leads? And maybe if you could give me like a case study.
Okay, sure. Why don't we use your business? You all right with that?
Sure.
Okay. So how many leads do you have come in every week? Or how many deals do you typically close a month?
So we're going to have to back up. So a year and a half ago, which is when we were really, really active. We actually took a year and a half off from investing. So last year we didn't do as many as we usually do because they just came from referrals and people in the network and our website. But when we were actively marketing, like we had our systems in place on all 4 cylinders, we were closing about 2 a month.
Okay.
For us, that we were purchasing.
2 a month. All right. So let's use that time frame then. All right. So with 2 a month, and at 2 a month, do you do inbound leads, like inbound leads, outbound leads? How did you market? Like, were direct mail or cold call? Or
mostly all direct mail and website. So they were coming in from inbound from our marketing material, and then we were also doing a lot of Google AdWords. So they were coming in through our website as well. Okay.
So so those leads tend to be hotter. So what I found is on leads that come in, inbound leads, after 5 days after the appointment, if they have not said yes, it's 5 days. after the appointment, if they have not agreed and signed the contract, you have less than a 5% chance of closing them. If they're outbound leads, which are cold calling or text or drop voicemails or any of those other stuff, then you have 10 days before your rate goes down to, it's actually below 5% as well. So with that, on yours, how big was your database at the time, would you say?
You mean how many letters were we putting out?
No. How big was your database? Like how many people were in your CRM?
We were probably, gosh, I wish I would have pulled up these numbers ahead of time. So don't quote me on this, but I want to say we were getting maybe 5 leads a week from the website, and we were getting maybe 5 to 10 calls a week from the direct mail marketing.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example of what I was asked. Sorry, I didn't ask well. So there was an old wholesaler that sent us like 850 leads, and we sent out our favorite text. My favorite text is, "Are you still looking to sell your house if you got the right price for it?" To all those leads, we set 29 appointments to those 800 people in their database. So
got it.
That's
so
what
currently in my database, I would say we've got about 500 leads in there that would be considered dead over the last 2 years, let's say 3 years.
So I'll just tell you, the first thing that you should do is send that text out to all those 500, and you're probably going to get a bunch of people, but you have to have your system in place. Don't do it early, because if you don't have your system in place and you don't know what to say, you don't get another crack at them very well. So that's the whole thing. So you send that out, you revitalize them. The second thing is you need to, so our class, like I'll just say at the beginning of the class, you need to absolutely, you need to pick the right agent, right? Because that's the biggest piece. It sounds like you already have one. And so you pick the right agent, but it's really important you get somebody that's happy, hungry, humble, and smart, right? If they're not happy, they're going to be upset with the splits. They're going to be upset with all the other stuff. They're wherever they go, there they are. Hungry, if they're not running, if they're not really, really fighting, like if the door is closed, they're going to find open windows, like they're going to find a way to close the deal. Humble, like they can learn, they're willing to learn other people's systems. They're willing to learn from people that are better than them in that area. And then smart, they have high EQ. So you've got the agent, right, in the business. You are now the agent. So then what we're going to do is find out how many inbound leads are coming in. And so if it's 50 and you've got 10 appointments, now do you do phone appointments or do you do in-person appointments?
In-person appointments, if we can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. A lot of people do it. I know now people are moving.
Kind of weird. Yeah.
Your closing ratio is a lot higher in person. And I know with like virtual wholesaling and other stuff, people are moving away from that. But I do think that you're going to close higher in person. And so, so if you are, let's just say to get your 2 a month, that you're going on about five in-person appointments a week. Is that about right?
Yep.
So if you're going on 5 a week, that means that you've got, 20 a month and that means there's 18 leads that you went on that you pre-qualified are ready to go, right? Mm-hmm. So of those 18, since it's direct mail, we know that after you make your offer, 5 days later, if they have not signed, then you need to call them back, or your husband would call back and say, hey, you know what? Carrie, you basically, he's going to kick it over to you with the right scripting and everything. And there's a long reason why you say the exact words that you say, but he's going to kick it over to you. And then you're going to show up and talk to them. You've already been edified. They already are expecting you to be a rock star. Amazing. And then when you go, literally, you need to know what those 5 reasons are why people sell to investors rather than agents. And if you know that they care about 2 of them, like they need to sell fast and they think their house is too much of a mess to put on the MLS, right? Let's say those are the 2. Then you walk in, you've got your scripting. All you're talking about is how fast you sell and how you're able to sell. You've sold all of these properties on the MLS. You pull out your home inspection report, that nasty, gnarly one, and say, we'll avoid all this because we sell as is, all the other pieces to that. And then you're good to go. And then the last piece is this. All the people that are calling in, if you pre-qualified that they want to sell, but they want 95 cents on the dollar, or they want total retail, then you still are setting the appointment, you're setting it up, but you're going on that and not your husband. So that is our system in a nutshell, but obviously there's just a lot more to it. It's one of those things that you've got to do the whole thing, or you just like miss out on a lot of money.
Let's talk about real quick these reasons why someone's going to sell to an investor versus list it with an agent. If you could go over those like 5 top reasons real quick.
Sure. Well, what do you think there?
Well, number 1 is speed, right? They want to sell it quickly. Number 2 is convenience. They don't want a lot of buyers walking through their home.
Especially during Corona time. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Number 3 is repairs needed on the house. They don't feel that they could list this on the retail market and find a buyer who needs bank financing.
Yep. Yeah.
3. So what we've covered, speed, convenience, and repairs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to all different special circumstances with the house, whether it's in pre-foreclosure or there's a code lien or there's something that's beyond what a retail buyer might be comfortable with.
Distress. Yeah.
Yeah. Distress, something on title that might make it distressed.
Yep. Yep. And now one last one. Come on. You got this. Think hoarders. Think hoarders.
Oh, I think cleanup. They just want to leave, right? They don't want to clean it up. They don't want to take junk out. They want to be done.
Embarrassed that their neighbors might see, don't want the sign in the yard, don't want their neighbors to see what they've done to the place, And so if you can answer those questions, then you win, right? That's it. The agent has to answer those questions, right? And so if they can answer those questions, then then you can win. And that's the big piece. And then after that, because most of the agents go in as an agent, they open up their listing presentation and do their whole listing thing. And then you're having listing conversations. Well, in my market, the average agent gets, just over 4% for both listed buyer and seller, but we're taking over 6% on average, like over 6% on average, which is not, because we're not having a real estate conversation like as an agent. We're having a conversation as a problem solver, and we're helping them achieve the goal that they have. And then at that point, you're not having commission questions. Like it's just not, that's not a question.
I would say that is probably number 6 to add to the list is, even though they're going to be selling it at a discount, they know what their bottom line is with our offer, right? We pay all cash. We pay all closing costs. There's no commission. There's no fees. Here's what you're going to get, where they don't have to calculate the commissions and the closing costs and the fees. Like they don't want to have those discussions. They just want this like neat, simple, you're going to buy it for cash. This is how much we're going to get. And we're going to be able to move out quick.
Well, see, and all of that comes under the banner of one of my favorite books, The Wolf of Wall Street, The Way of the Wolf. I don't know that he does life necessarily that well, but I'll tell you what, that man knows how to sell like nobody else. And so in his book, The Way of the Wolf, he talks about straight line selling and the idea that people want certainty. Whether if you're an agent, they want certainty. Like sellers want to know that you're going to have their house sold for a good price. Buyers want to know that you have access to a house. If you are an investor, they are calling you because they want certainty. They want it done. And so all of those things just fall under that certainty umbrella.
Yeah. Here's another thing too, that I'm sure you talk about when it comes to this agent investor wearing both hats is, let's say in my example where my husband's going to be the investor and I'm going to be the agent, and the seller can't come to a price with my husband where it would work for him to purchase it. So now he refers it over to me. Well, I've got a huge database of cash buyers because of his role as an investor. And yeah, they might not want to get retail, right? Maybe their price that they need to be at is between what my husband can offer them and what retail price is. So they're kind of halfway in between there. Well, because I have him as my investor, right, partner, he's got quite a big database of cash buyers just working in the investing space. So now I can get that listing out to even more potential buyers for that seller, for that homeowner.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the other side is, as the agent, you're going to find a lot of cash buyers when you price things slightly under market. I mean, there's a whole process to getting the most money for our property. And so when you price it slightly under market, you're going to end up getting a lot of cash buyers that call you, which will build out the cash buyer list, which also helps. I mean, the agent you choose really becomes a business partner. It really does. And people don't understand that. Like, it's literally as important as choosing it, like who you're going to be in business with, because that agent is going to have a lot of new cash buyers that will buy things right off the bat for you. Okay,
so we're coming up to the end of the show here. My question is, for someone who's hearing this, they're an investor, they've got a bunch of leads in their CRM system, they're not currently partnered with an agent. What's the first step in finding the right agent that they want to partner with if they don't want to go get the license? They just want to stay investor and they want to partner with an agent.
Well, if they don't want to get a license, so in most states, this is the trickiest piece of the whole thing. So agents aren't allowed to give referral fees to people that are not licensed. So what most people do is either they get licensed themselves, they get a friend, family member, somebody else to get licensed and put their entity, put their license under their entity. It's called a DBA, doing business as. And then the last thing is, if you don't have a friend, family member, somebody that wants to be licensed in there, 25% of all real estate agents do 0 deals every year. And so there's a way to find those agents and just ask them to come under and be your in-house agent that can basically be in charge of referrals. And so that is that's the other piece there. But when you're looking for the agent to do the stuff, you're going to have to interview like crazy on these agents, because they need to be good. So we have all the questions that you asked for happy, hungry, humble, and smart. I heard this this pastor once talking about how to choose a spouse, and somebody sent it to me. And he's like, man, this is about choosing a spouse, but this is the best hiring tip I've ever seen in my life. And the thing that he said was, don't ever look for potential, always look for patterns. Don't look for potential, look for patterns. So if this agent has a history of winning, then that's what you want. If they have a history of like sitting on their butt and watching TV and hoping that the phone rings, that is not who you want. I don't care whether that they were in sports, whether they were in another field, whatever they were in, if they have a history, a pattern of doing well and producing at a high level, those are the agents that you're looking for.
Okay. And what does a typical referral fee look like? If I'm a licensed agent, I couldn't make the deal work with a buyer. Now I'm going to refer it over to my agent partner.
See, that all just depends on this is where you have to dig in. Like, how many leads are you setting? How many appointments are you setting? It just can go anywhere. I mean, as low as 25%, as high as 50% is what I've seen. So it's pretty massive, but there's a lot of things that you have to dig into to know what your business looks like for it.
Got it. Okay. This was all good information. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'll tell you. I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing good business and getting stuff out there. I mean, you definitely have to get this rocking and rolling, and got to do it right. That's the whole thing. Is so many, like, I was just talking to a buddy of mine, and he's like, oh, we're doing it. We're doing it well. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? And he's like, we have 7 listings under contract, and they bring in about 300 leads a month. And I'm like, brother, that's good. That's good. But I'm telling you, you could have, I mean, like, for where he's at, he should be like sitting on like 25 under contract at any given point in time. No doubt. And so it's about 3 times where it's at. But here's the other piece too, is if you grow your business, the agent that you're working with, their business is going to break. It really will. Yeah. You will break their business. And so they will need to, that's part of the reason why they need to be humble, because they're going to need to learn how to grow with you, right? Because if they stop growing, just going to pick another agent and joining in, that's when stuff just gets muddy and complicated. You want somebody that's big thinking and can grow with you, because you will break their business and they're just going to have to keep reinventing it, just like you do with your own, right? When it grows.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that leads me to one last question. Is it better to choose a broker who has multiple agents underneath them, where if it gets big enough, there's multiple people to refer these to?
You want somebody with that can lead a team, because that person is going to be like a broker, a brokerage. Like, I mean, it's not like McDonald's where a number one is a number one, right? Like that's not it. So, but if you find a team, like, and especially a high powered team, like where the leader is really good. Now, the problem with it, every gift also has its equal and opposite curse. So like if they're really good, a lot of times humility, they think that they know what they're doing and they're not willing to learn a new system. So that's why you got to get somebody who's really confident and really good, but also humble and willing to learn so they can grow. And then the people in their team are going to have similar values, similar mindset, and willing to win. So that's more what you're looking for than you are somebody that's like in a brokerage where all the agents, like a number one maybe has pickles in one place and no pickles in another, right?
Got it. All right. Well, you guys, we just touched the surface on all of this. So Chris, if people want to connect with you, they want some more information about what you do and how you help people, where can they connect with you at?
So my Instagram handle is @CradRock, CRADDROCK, old high school nickname. So I know it's cheesy. But then or they can go if they're interested in signing up for the course or just want to even just talk about it. My website, just chriscraddock.com, has a sign up link there where we can have a call and just talk through your particular needs.
What's so funny about high school nicknames is for the longest time and into my late 20s, I was using Rom Dog because my maiden name is Rom, R-O-M, and people used to call me Rom Dog in high school. And I had it as my email and everything. And at one point I'm like, this is not professional. I need to change it. Rom Dog.
Rom Dog. That's awesome.
And I'm like, I think it's time to change it to something else. I was using my high school nickname for the longest time.
Hilarious.
Yours is a little bit more professional though. Mine was That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. You guys make sure you contact Chris if you have any questions. I know I'm probably going to be contacting you because, like I said, this is a brand new journey for us, 9 years of investing. And now I'm going and getting my license because I finally see the benefit of how I can use it. And we're going to be putting some new systems in place as a result of me getting the license and then switching over the investing to my husband. So we're going to be that husband-wife team, basically, that you just gave the example on.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's
very cool. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you again, Chris, for coming on. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, you are only one deal away.